Let's get into this final subject that we have for you guys tonight. Wide receiver university.
The
Folks,
valiant fight. Who is
the
wide receiver you? You can definitely tell Blake made that graphic.
listen, do I want people to find this Twitter situation? Probably
Please
not.
don't.
But we were talking about Tristan Keys and that recruiting situation. Well, it caused a bit of a situation for me on X on Twitter.
Yeah.
Now,
Well,
listen,
you may have caused the
no,
situation.
well, no, listen. Okay. So first of all, I gotta say this. I blame you because you got in order to promote the podcast, I had to get back on Twitter. I don't really do social media, but I got back on Twitter to promote the podcast.
Okay.
And I have a problem with having to make my opinion known about the University of Tennessee. Right.
Okay.
I will admit
Sounds
that.
like a you
I will.
problem, but go ahead.
It's partially a me problem. So here's what happened, folks. The video we were just talking about Tristan Keys. The video surface of Tristan Keys'
Here's what
recruiting
happened.
situation, and you know he's currently an LSU commit.
He is.
And so someone commented on the video on X on Twitter, whatever it's called, and said, hey, has anyone told him about Tennessee's receivers compared to LSU's? And I took issue with that, Austin, okay? Because Tennessee was I will say formerly, okay.
Okay. I'm glad they bullied you
listen,
enough in the same formerly.
No, listen. They didn't bully me, okay? I didn't listen. I am a clear-headed thinker. I understand that recent history has changed things a little bit.
It has.
But formerly
in 2006, Tennessee was unquestionably wide receiver U.
Which is not that long ago in the grand scheme of things, Austin. Okay, not that long ago. And football, and we're gonna get into this, but football still existed back then. Okay, so it still counts. But listen, so solidly wide receiver U back then. But yes, the past. So anyway, so basically, long story short is I replied to the guy's thing and said, "Hey, we've got a prestigious history of receivers compared to."
No, you said vastly. That was your problem. That was your biggest problem. You said vastly more prestigious history than LSU. Now, I will say,
listen, I can't believe my brother is joining the bullies and attacking me.
Hey! I gave you the stats to help you. I did the hardcore research to help you out. But that was your problem because you're not an NFL fan. You don't follow the NFL, and you probably didn't realize that LSU recently has put out some studs at wide receiver.
Come out. I am fully aware of Jefferson. I'm fully aware of Chase. I'm fully aware of Odell Beckham Jr. Okay,
Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr.
Listen, I was intentional with the word vastly and intentional on the prestigious history, right? Everyone's thinking about the last 10 years and people only can think of the last 10 years because the world revolves around them. And of course, football didn't exist before they started watching. And so I chose my words intentionally because we do have a great history of receivers. I get though that LSU recently has been crazy with receivers.
Insane. Okay. And it's mostly been college success that has led into NFL success. Okay. The recent wide receivers that LSU has produced have been so successful in the NFL that I understand. I got why people reacted that way, especially knowing the age on X. Like the average age on X is like 13 years old. So they only know TikTok edits of Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. And recently, it's not close, Blake. Let's be honest about this. If we're just being honest, Vol fans.
And I did say that on Twitter.
However,
I did say that.
However, you are right. You are right. And I will say, recently, it's not like Tennessee's had no one. We had the Blitnikoff winner in 2022.
Exactly.
Now, he hasn't panned out in the NFL, but he also had Daniel Jones at quarterback. So there's like a give and take with this. Like Jalen Hyatt's career is not over in in the NFL. It's close, but it's not over yet. He can get back on track. In your defense, Blake, it is very annoying that fans of the game, like I deal with this with NFL takes, with NBA take. Like I see this all the time. I saw a take the other day, Blake. You don't even know who this guy is. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander for the Thunder. If you're an NBA fan, I'm sorry. The product's terrible. I will say I'm sorry, first and foremost. Secondly, I saw a young fan the other day said SGA is better than Kobe Bryant. I seriously almost passed out from this take. I finally understood why the old heads laugh and just kind of scoff at young sports takes, at young dude sports takes, because young people, especially on social media these days, know nothing about the history of the game they're watching. And that is a fact. And that is true with college football. And it's true with Tennessee's wide receivers. There's a reason Blake is saying that we're still wide receiver U. Now we're not. We've been taken over by a couple of schools. However, Tennessee does have a history of wide receivers, a vast history, as you said. Has the NFL success always been there? No, not to the level of Alabama's receivers and LSU's receivers. However, 11 first round picks, Blake, 11. That's more than LSU's 10. 7 All Americans in Tennessee's history. That's more than LSU's 5 All American wide receivers. It is a legit history of wide receivers. And it's very frustrating to me as a NFL historian, a football historian, someone who just loves football. And you know this about me, Blake, that cats on Twitter don't want to count a guy like Willie Gault, like the great Willie Gault for Tennessee. Like he counts, dude. Now, is he as good as Justin Jefferson? Of course not. Justin Jefferson's the best wide receiver in the NFL, but Willie Gault's legit, man. I mean, he is legit, and he counts, man. He counts towards Tennessee's history. And I mean, there's other even more recent guys like Cordell Patterson. Listen, Cordell Patterson wasn't a dominant wide receiver in the NFL. Now, he did become one of the most efficient kick returners in NFL history, by the way. But he was drafted as a wide receiver. Cordell Patterson was electric his 1 year at Tennessee. Like, we're not counting Cordell Patterson since when? Like, when we're talking about wide receiver U, we have to look at college success to a certain degree, don't we? Like, we have to look at their success. It's not just based on NFL success. If at all. I think to your point, like you weren't counting NFL success really at all. And then you have a guy like Justin Hunter who's more recent. Or so the point is, my main point, I could go down the list, right? There is tons of receivers at Tennessee that were great here and went to the NFL as high draft picks. Not all of them panned out. The point is that what I found ridiculous, and this happens on X all the time, it was the extremes, right? Now, you did start with an extreme by saying Vassily. However, it was the extremes in the response to you as well. Acting like Tennessee can hold no candle to LSU.
Ridiculous.
That's ridiculous. Just looking at history,
They were like,
absolutely ridiculous.
It's not even close, bro. It's not even close.
Tennessee
I'm like, dude, it is.
It's exactly a lot closer than they think. Now, recently, it's not close. Recently, it is absolutely not close because you could argue that LSU, what they have done for their young receivers, that I could see why a young receiver wants to go play for LSU just from like the NFL contracts they're getting and things like that. But historically, it's a lot closer than people are making it out. And the recent stuff counts, but we're also counting the 80s and 90s, dude. Like if you don't want to count 1940s football with leather helmets, pre-war football, okay, fine. I get that. But we're counting the 80s and 90s, dude. Like there's people alive that remember the 80s and 90s and Willie Gault and Tim McGee and, Peerless Price. Like there's plenty of
Carl
guys.
Pickens.
Exactly. Marcus Nash, first round pick. Like there is plenty of dudes that Tennessee has had that young cats have no clue who they are. But dudes that work on SC Network, Paul Feinbaum, if you call Paul and talk about Peerless Price, are you kidding me? Paul's going to be like, dude, that was one of the best players in the entire country. Now, he didn't go on to be an NFL Hall of Famer, but it's like, we're counting Peerless Price, dude. Like, just because you don't know who he is, we're counting Peerless Price. He caught a touchdown in the national championship that helped Tennessee win it in 98. Like, that counts.
It does, and that was exactly what irked me so bad. Was that exactly like you said? You know, these cats are pretending like football didn't exist prior to 2015. I'm like,
Give
bro,
me a break.
I get that the recent and look, I get that that's what matters in recruiting right now. Like you know, like you said, I get all that, but don't pretend like there wasn't a history at Tennessee, right? And another thing too, I got to point out, Austin. Okay, before I would be remiss if I don't talk about this, and I fully believe in it. Maybe you don't believe in it. Maybe other people don't believe in it.
Let's hear it.
But another thing too, you know, a few of the guys were on there like, well, what have they done in the NFL? And you know, have they won? You know, one guy was like, have Tennessee receivers won Offensive Player of the Year in the NFL and da 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 and all this, dude? When it comes to the 80s and 90s especially, but really probably prior to what, 2005, 2010, the league in particular and really football in general was nowhere near as pass friendly as it is now.
That's
Nowhere near
true.
that, right? So in order to you can't rightfully, you know, look at, you know, say your, you know, Jefferson or your neighbors or whoever and be like, oh, well, look at all of the yards he's got, look at all of the touchdowns he's got, and
It's not
oh,
fair
look,
to
he
compare
won.
those things.
It's not fair to, or look at, you know, he won Offensive Player of the Year. Okay, yeah, because he is getting, you know, three times as many targets, and he's getting, you know, and the rules even favor receivers more now, right? In terms of, you know, targeting I mean, dude, are you telling me that freaking, you know, and again, I know I sound like a boomer right now, you know, maybe Jordan versus LeBron James, right? And it's like, you know, Michael Jordan played in a much tougher league. Are you kidding me? Willie Galt and Carl Pickens, they probably got
We
targeted left, right, and like
but give
they
me a
pro-
break. We're talking about greats here, though. That's my irritation. It's like just because you don't know
yes,
who Willie Galt is, dude, go
doesn't make
ask
him not
somebody
great.
who liked football in the '80s. Willie Galt was the best wide receiver on the Bears for a decade. He played for a team who never had a good quarterback. The Bears still haven't had a 4,000-yard passer in their entire history. Blake, they've never had a quarterback throw for 4,000 yards, and Willie Galt played for them the whole career. It's like, dude, we're counting Willie Galt. Give me a break. We're counting Tim McGee. Give me a break. Like, these are guys who were great players. Dante Stallworth was a top 11 pick in the NFL draft. Yes, he didn't pan out in the NFL. I get that. That matters. However, he still was a top 11 pick. Like, this is, he counts when we're talking about these things. Herm knows, like Rhonda and Herm knows that these are Vol fans who've been watching Vol, and even college football fans, Blake, know these players. Like, these are not nobodies. Alvin Harper. How about Alvin Harper? Anthony Stanley Morgan. Like, Stanley Morgan, he's a 70s guy. But dude, I trust me, if you ask somebody who watched football in the 70s and 80s, they know who Stanley Morgan is, Blake. Just because you weren't alive for that era. And I've always, listen, I'm a younger fan. Okay, so I didn't watch these players play, but I've always been a historian of the game, Blake. I've always been a historian of the game, and it's absolutely blasphemous for people to dismiss a guy like Stanley Morgan, who played in the league for years. Like, yeah, Stanley Morgan counts when we're talking about wide receiver U all time. Recently, yes, LSU takes it. As far as all-time greatness in the NFL, they're on that trajectory to take that as well. But as
Sure,
far as depth is concerned, and like again, it's about the like definitives for me. Like how the people were saying, "Oh, definitively this is a completely terrible take." It's like, okay, maybe Blake worded it in a way that was a little unfair. However, it's a lot closer than people make it out
exactly.
because look, I mean, just go by the numbers, Blake. 11 first rounders, 41 drafted, 7 All-Americans. Those are all
Which
higher
is more
numbers,
than LSU.
more than
Exactly.
LSU. So it's like, come on, it's a lot closer than people think.
It's a lot closer, and again, I can't get away from the fact that, you know, in terms of NFL production, our receivers, you know, our historic receivers, you know, played in a tougher era. And Austin, let's not, you know, I mean, let's not disrespect the great Joey Kent, okay? And
I
like
just looking at Joey Kent's name, Blake. I was about to throw Joey Kent out there. Are you kidding me? We're not counting
you,
Joey Kent.
like, give me a break. Again, you know, someone who didn't make a huge impact in the NFL, but Dude, I mean, he was an absolute beast in college, right?
Dude,
And you can't, disrespect the great Robert Meacham, who did actually have a pretty solid NFL career. By the way, I talked to his wife one day when I was working at UT. Shout out to Miss Meacham. And Kelly Washington in the early 2000s.
that's what I'm
We're
saying.
dismissing a lot of these 2000s guys as well.
It's like the LSU fans not counting a guy like Michael Clayton. Like, we're not counting Michael Clayton just because you didn't watch him play and you don't know who he is because you haven't seen TikTok edits of him. Like, I'm counting Michael Clayton if I'm an LSU fan. Are you kidding me? Like, that's my point. It's like, dude, just because you haven't seen 1,000, yeah, Dante Stallworth. Thank you, Herb. Dante, like, we're not counting Dante's. Are you? That's a complete joke. Of course, we're counting Dante Stallworth. He's an all-time great college player. He was a great college player. So the point is, and also, like, come on, Jalen Hyatt, 5 touchdowns against Alabama.
Exactly.
Like, that's even the recent guy. Just because he's not an All-Pro in the NFL, he still counts as far as wide receiver U conversations. Um,
And
uh,
also, speaking of recent guys, let's not disrespect the great Jawan Jennings, who
yes,
was
who
literally 3 points away from being a Super Bowl MVP 2 years ago.
I
Okay.
I'm glad you
So,
brought that name up because Juwan Jennings, listen, like, this is a guy who was drafted in the 6th round, cut by his team that ends up picking him back up, and has made a name for himself in the NFL. And by the way, is about to have an increased role with Debo Samuel leaving the Niners. Like, Juwan Jennings, we're counting Juwan Jennings. Like, again, you don't see TikTok edits. Go look at his NFL highlights, man. Look at him running dudes into the sideline, run blocking, or
yeah.
like you said, to your point, Blake, was literally a scoreboard flip away in that game from being Super Bowl MVP. He was going to win Super Bowl MVP for the Niners. So do I think Tennessee's wide receiver U, as a football fan, I would say, gun to my head, no. But let's not disrespect Tennessee's history at wide receiver, man. It is a vast history of wide receivers at Tennessee. And just because these young cats, these 15-year-olds on Twitter haven't seen TikTok edits of Tennessee wide receivers does not mean that there are all-time great players that have played wide receiver for the University of Tennessee.
And Austin, because it is close historically, we are one good decade away from, or even maybe less than a decade, if to tie it right back to our previous conversation about football recruiting. If Heupel can start bringing in these blue chip
If
guys,
Tristan Keys
maybe like a Tristan Keys
flips to Tennessee,
and Mike Matthews, if he develops, we've got Mike Matthews still on the roster. But my point is, if we can get a
things
decent
can
run, if
change,
Heupel
brother.
can, then things can change in a heartbeat. And all of a sudden, we've got 3 NFL stars, in the league in a few short years.
And
And then all of a sudden, suddenly people's memories suddenly seem to come back, and they're like, oh, wait a minute, the history's there, and now because too many people have recency bias, bro. Too many people have
way too
recency
many
bias.
people. How about Larry Severs, 2-time consensus All American for Tennessee at wide receiver? We're not counting Larry Severs in this conversation. 2-time All American, consensus All American. Like, do you know how many consensus? Go look up each school's consensus All American list, brother. It is a small list of players, and he has 2 consensus All
Yep.
Americans. We're counting Larry Severs. I am, at least. I'm looking into that. And listen, I wasn't even, hey, I didn't know a lot about Larry Severs before this research, but I do now. Like, and these things matter in these discussions.
They do. And brother, listen, man, you left me high and dry in this Twitter war, bro. Where were you? Where were you,
Well,
man, in the
I
war?
listen, man. I didn't like how you started it off. You're saying
Look
vastly.
at this.
I don't love that. I don't
On the
love that tone.
on the internet in 4K, he's admitting to intentionally
Wait
leaving
a
his
second.
brother high and
Wait a
dry.
second. Wait a second. Who provided the hardcore research for you though?
You did. No, listen. Okay, first of all, time out. I already knew about Willie Galt. Okay, I already now I
No,
didn't
no, no,
watch
no,
him
no. I
play.
know, I know that. I was just
But
talking about the
I already
numbers,
the
purely by the
numbers. Yes,
numbers.
yes, yes. But
Oh, of
yes,
course,
you
you know
you helped
about
me
the
with
great
some
Kelly
research.
Washington. Like, we're
I
counting
know about
Kelly
the great Kelly
Washington.
Washington.
Come on,
I know
man.
about dude. I remember as a kid. I mean, I literally watched Robert Meacham in person. Okay, right. So I know about the history. But yes, you helped me out with the research. If only you had jumped in there, brother, and helped me on the internet. But here we are. At least we're getting it on the podcast. I'm gonna catch up on chat here real quick, folks. Rhonda, as always, keeping the chat going. Going back to talking about these kids who kind of don't know the history. Rhonda says that she works in a high school. Trust me, y'all are definitely hitting the truth. Appreciate that, Rhonda. And Rhonda, hey, listen. Also, that's funny too because people were trying to troll me as well about LSU. Da da da. Hey, in terms of just Tennessee versus LSU in terms of football in general. We have a winning record against LSU, 21-10-3. Okay, and by the way, our most recent matchup with LSU was an absolute gobsmacking in
Yeah.
Death Valley
Come on.
in 2022, like Rhonda pointed out just there. So absolutely,
With some of those
let's
wide receivers, by the way. With Jalen
exactly
Hyatt now, I
with
think
Jalen,
Cedric
the
Tillman was on the
Bolitnikoff winner.
sidelines, but come on, man. Come on, man.
Exactly.
We're counting the Bolitnikoff winner. Like we can't just look at NFL success here, Blake. The Bolitnikoff. That means the most outstanding wide receiver in college football, by the way. If you didn't know what that award was for. We're counting the Bolitnikoff winner, regardless if he has a good NFL career or not.
Because he beat y'all supposedly wide receiver he beat y'all in 2022. Okay, so Rhonda's on the boat with Pickens and Price. Absolutely, Peerless Price is probably one of my favorite players in Tennessee history because I was a young lad, a wee lad, watching Peerless Price in the national championship. Helped win that national championship for us. So and then Herb jumping in here, putting his thumbs up to Carl Pickens. Had a great career in Cincinnati there. Stallworth, absolutely. And then Herb says, in terms of our current recruiting, he says throw $4 million at Tristan Keys and lock him up. I do what we got to do, man. We got to
Do
get these
what you
recruits
gotta
here.
do, man. That's what we were talking
Do
about earlier, Herb. Like we are saying how, listen, if you want to win at the highest levels in college football, you have to have the best recruiting. That's just the reality. And if we want to get back to that wide receiver you status, Blake, and we want to get back to
exactly.
putting out some of this talent that we have in the past in the 80s and 90s, then let's go get a guy like Tristan Keys to help that happen.
Tristan Keys, if you're watching, it's time to become a Vol, man.
If he's watching. Well,
Hey,
I doubt it, but we'll see.
listen, you never know. He might see my fight on Twitter. He might find the Vol Talk podcast.
I
And
hope no one sees your fight on Twitter.
actually, I hope not either. But listen. I started the segment by admitting that I've got a problem and I couldn't help myself. Okay, I couldn't help myself. But folks, don't worry. Rest assured that your boy is getting back off Twitter. Okay, so we will not be entering those situations again.
I mean, definitively, right here, right now, I already gave my opinion. Is Tennessee wide receiver you, Blake?
Absolutely, 1,000%. What are you kidding me?
He's digging
Are you
his
kidding
heels
me?
in. He's digging his heels in. I love it.
I, I, bro, that's the reason the thing happened on Twitter because I refused to change my opinion. Again, I admit that it's a problem, but I'm not going to back down. Wide receiver, you
he's,
baby, Tennessee,
he's digging
always,
his
always and
heels in,
forever,
dude.
digging the hills in.